Okay, I'm just going to do a little bit here before I start the Warhammer 2 Total War Kislev section itself, because I have had some questions about what mods I use for the game. So this is perhaps not the best way to go about showcasing that. However, if I can expand this. How do you expand it while keeping it? Is that it? Okay. That should be readable. But this is in the Total War Mod Manager, version 1.8.6. Probably a bit outdated. This is probably the easiest way for me to be able to showcase what mods I use. What mods I tend to use, and what mods I am currently using. Other than me writing a whole list and posting it, like, on YouTube or something like that. This will be a short video, I suppose, if people are interested in it. Not all of the mods I have here, which I tend to play with, are active, because not all of them have been updated. Some of them I have active, even though it will say that they're outdated, because I believe they're still fine to play. I haven't had any crashes with them. I do recommend using the mod manager to run the game with these mods. An important thing was that, as it says up here, make sure you unselect all the mods in the Creative Assembly mod manager before hitting the launch button. That is the little, pre-game loader which they implemented. For the most part, I've had no problems running the game with mods using their loader. However, I was getting crashes last time after the last patch when I was trying to load the game, and so I started using the mod manager more frequently after that, and I haven't had any crashes. It's to do with, I would assume conflicts and the mod load order and all that, similar issues which Skyrim can have. This organizes the mods automatically for you, so you don't have to worry about that. But as we can see here, I have quite a variety of mods. This is the Krakadrak Norse Dwarves mod, made by Kataf. I also have his Southern Realms pack. These two both add unique units to these factions and flesh them out. I also have a bunch of these uniforms and heraldry mods. I forget who they're done by, which is a real shame. Let me have a look if I can go into my Steam Workshop. They are done by the uniformed and heraldry mod is done for Empire is done by Giggy Owls, I think it is. Yes. So they don't add any new units, these uniform and heraldry mods. They just add more variety for unit appearances, and also in the case of the Empire and the Skaven, actually for all of them, they add unique emblems or faction appropriate faction appropriate emblems on the shields of those units. So the Empire for the Reichland have the symbol of Reichland on their shield. Skaven of Clan Moors have the Clan Moor symbol on them. High Elves, which it looks really good for the High Elves, because the High Elf shields are supposed to be really garish with big symbols of their factions on them, and in the base game they're just I think they're diagonally slashed two colors, and they don't look over the top enough for the High Elves, but the mod actually makes it so you have really colorful High Elf shields and a variety of High Elf shields. I don't actually have them activated here. This one says it's alright. This one is outdated, so I could probably activate that one. These are just visual mods, so I think activating them during campaign is alright. What else? We've got this one. This is an asset storage for Southern Realms. We have this one, which is done by Kataf and Vandy, Return of the Lich Master, which is a unique faction mod for the Barrow Legion, which is led by Heinrich Kemmler. It adds a bunch of unique units, some faction mechanics. All these mods also apply regardless of whether you play as the faction. So having this mod also means that if I fight that faction, they are different. Otherwise, in base game, they are a normal vampire count faction. This just makes them a bit more unique to have simulacrum, I think, and ghosts and all that. There's a community bug fix mod, fixes smaller things which people have noticed, instead of having to rely just on Creative Assembly's patch progress, which is fine. They do a good job, I think. But the community bug fix mod just will fix every, the little thingies here and there, as I noticed. Kataf's reskin, Haganeth Executioners, and Armored High Elf Archers. Now this one, primarily I got this one for the Haganeth Executioners change. Now, if you know about Warhammer, when an update for the Dark Elves came along, the Haganeth Executioners got a visual change. Previously, they had the conical helms, as you can see in this image here, and they had chain skirts along with their massive two-handed sword. However, in the last in one of the tabletop updates, the model got what's it called? Got improved, got updated, and the conical helm was replaced with a skull mask, like a bronze or gold colored skull mask, which I didn't like the look of. Other people thought the same. It looked a bit too stupid, over the top, and it meant that the executioners didn't match in with the rest of the units in the Dark Elf army, because the bleak swords, dark shards, and all that, they have the conical helms, and it's kind of a visual thread going through the Dark Elf and High Elf armies. However, the executioners had these skull helms, skull masks. This just replaces the skull mask with the conical helm, with a little chain visor over their face. I think it looks better. Expanded roster Beastmen. I think this is done by Decomposition. This adds several new units to the Beastmen. Primarily, it adds the various gores based on the different gods. Corn gores, Zarn gores, what's it called? Pesty gores and Slung gores. Which have different focuses. It also adds a proxy Gorgon, which is a unit a lot of people for the Beastmen want added. 4-armed, giant-sized creature. Kind of like a massive mutated Minotaur. It adds it as a large Minotaur. What else does it add? I think it adds some new chariot units. Instead of just a Razor Gore chariot, I think it adds something else. I can't really remember. There's the UI modding framework. This just allows, I think, some custom UI modifications to work. No degradation, persistent summons. This is something I got specifically for myself. It used to be in Warhammer 1 Total War that when you summoned a unit of zombies, they would stay for the whole battle. However, soon after the release of it, they actually changed that to they would degrade health over time and eventually they would die. This is a mod which I like having so that if I summon a unit of zombies or Skaven using the menace from below, they will be persistent for the entire battle. Which I feel is more fun to play against during the campaign. If I have a necromancer, I can summon units of zombies and they will hang around. And not after the battle, but during the battle, they will stay as extra troops. I really like that, so that's something which I got for that. Empire Master Engineer, it just adds an extra hero for the Empire, the Master Engineer. I think we've seen it in our campaign, actually. It's a ranged hero. He has buffs for ranged units and artillery, as well as 3 different weapons, I think. A long rifle, grenade launcher, and a repeater rifle, I think. GCCM custom assets. This is just a side mod, again, for the GCCM. Or, what's that stand for? It's like group community custom maps or something like that. For the custom siege maps and battle maps, which we might see in a campaign. Immersive battle banners. It makes the banners for the different factions which you see during the campaign and during a battle, which hover above the units, just more interesting. Adds this like edging along it and these little gems. This is a high off one. As well as changing the symbol. Also, personally, I find sometimes the symbols in this mod actually look better and are easier to identify rather than the base game ones. High Elf crafting and overhaul. It adds crafting for the High Elves. Since we're not playing as the High Elves, it doesn't mean much. It allows the High Elves to be able to create a number of unique items rather than just using the what's it called? The they have the right of all, which gives them a random magical item. This works like the dwarves crafting system. I think they have Thilmar ore to use for it or something like that. Unique steam tanks. This adds, I think, about 7 or 8 unique steam tanks which the Empire can build. There's like a melee focused one. There's one with a mortar cannon on it. There's one with a Hellblaster volley gun on it. Just some more variety. They're all based in lore and so. Runic Forge, rune crafting mod for the Dawi. This was a mod which came about before Creative Assembly implemented crafting for the dwarves, but it's since still useful because it adds extra items. I think it also gives a unique resource for the dwarves, Gromril, I think it is, to be able to forge items from. This is done by Vandy, I believe. Deco Kislev 2 expanded roster. I think this is just a secondary part for... No, this is just the expanded roster Kislev. This is the main reason why I'm playing as the faction. It adds a bunch of Kislev unique units to the army, to Kislev, rather than just being an Empire clone. Mixu's Unlocker. This allows us to play as Kislev, or other factions which have legendary lords created for them. It's not as extensive as Katas's faction unlocker, or no, Krynos' faction unlocker, which I was using previous, but that hasn't been updated, and is, I believe, pretty much being replaced with this. Mixu has it so that with these two, Legendary Lords 1 and 2, you actually get unique lords to play as some of the other factions as. So we have Marius Leekdorf here. It's a brilliant smile, might I add. And you have all the elect accounts for the Empire, and you can play as any of them. However, you can't play as factions which don't have a Legendary Lord added. Mixu's mod. Which is fine. I mean, no. Otherwise you'd just be playing as a generic Lord, which isn't as fun. Mixon's Musalon, another mod by Mixu. He does a lot of good stuff. This adds, I think, mostly a unique look to Musalon. Rather than being vampire counts, it adds them more as a Bretonnia-themed vampire counts. I think it also adds some unique units. I believe they have peasantry units from Bretonnia, but they have unique abilities, or a unique ability called, like, Mutant, to represent the fact that they live underneath a vampire count, so they're not really put off by the undead. Uniforms and heraldry greenskins, this does the same thing. Also dwarves, just gives more variety to the units' appearance. Expanded roster greenskins, orc pack, and goblin pack. These both go together because they're just both for the greenskins. But of course, one focuses on orcs and one focuses on goblins. This adds a bunch of new units to the orcs and goblins, or the greenskins. A lot of it is doubling up on purpose. However, personally, I don't mind, and it allows you to build themed armies for the greenskins more easily. You have a whole variety of different black orcs, Black Orcs with shields, Black Orcs with two-handed weapons, which are in the base game, and Black Orcs with two-hand weapons, dual wielding. Might also add some unique regiments of renown. Maybe. The goblins one adds things like forest goblins, some night goblins with spears, which weren't in the base game. Also hill goblins, which were a tougher unit of base goblins. They have heavier armor, but they come in a smaller squad. Uniforms and heraldry of Bretonnia makes the Bretonian knights and all that look a bit more interesting. Particularly important for the knights, because on the tabletop, it was common for the knights to be painted in all these different heraldry colors to represent that they come from all these minor fiefdoms all over Bretonnia. So having the variety of color in a Bretonian cavalry unit was kind of part of the appeal of the faction. Then we have the GCCM mods, which I activated in the stream before last, I think. These had a whole bunch of maps done by the community, island battles. This is a unique factions capital, so we have unique capitals around the map. Not all of them. Kislev has a unique appearance. This one here is Gayan Vale for Avalon in Ulthuan. It also does Altdorf, Kemri. What is it? The Vampire Count faction for Neferata down in the Southland. I forget what it's called. Anyway, Settlement Pack 1 and 2. This is unique maps for various settlements around the campaign map. I can't remember all of them. You can see an image on their Steam workshop page which shows you which settlements have been implemented and which ones are still to go. I believe they've got a beta mod going at the moment where they're sort of doing another pass of the mods to make sure the AI is able to work on them alright. You can see beta link in the description here. This is the main mod you need. You need a bunch of these together. Iron Battle, Settlement Pack 2 and 1 and main mod. It will list that on the page on Steam Workshops. And then we go to the ones which I haven't got activated. Uniforms and Heraldry High Elves for Fortresses. And the High Elves, I could probably activate those, but I don't. I'll have to test off stream. Krynos' Faction Unlocker. I'm not using that now, but I still have it subscribed to. I should probably stop that. I don't think he's updating it. We have this was to work with Krynos' Faction Unlocker for Ultimate Chaos. Ultimate Chaos, I think, is getting updated soon. It is an expansive mod. It says updated, but it hasn't been updated recently enough. That was back in May. But this adds a whole bunch of new units to the Warriors of Chaos faction. It adds god-specific units. It adds demonic units. As well as it can. The Khorne units look alright because they're Gauls and they're red. But things like Great Unclean One is a large green-tinged Chaos Spawn, which is, you know, they do the best that they can. It adds a lot of variety to the Warriors of Chaos army list. It's the easiest way to say that. You can have demons as lords, you can have a bloodthirster as your lord for an army. You can have a Keeper of Secrets, I think. Maybe? You could have a Lord of Change, because there's the model in the base game for that. It also adds a bunch of laws for the different gods. It adds the Law of Tzeentch magic. You can have spellcasters for the Law of Tzeentch. It adds the Law of Nurgle. And it adds spellcasters for the Law of Nurgle. It also adds the Law of Slaanesh and spellcasters for the Law of Slaanesh. And there's a bunch of mods which support it there. Scripting framework, that's outdated at the moment. Don't know, I'll have to check to see whether that's alright. The Bretonnia mounts, this is specifically for the cavalry. Actually, I don't have that activated. I've got the other one activated. I should activate that as well. So I think one of them's for infantry, and this one's just for the mount heraldry. Or was there a reason I turned it off? They might have had an issue where they couldn't keep the heraldry of the horse's barding appropriate for the shield which the knight was carrying. Anyway, Kislev Warbears. This is a very specific mod. As good as the expanded roster for Kislev is, the bears in the base game, if we build some, they look kind of terrifying because they're a retextured demigryph. You can see that even here. What this does is just do a better texture work to cover up the fact that they're demigryphs. It makes them look a bit more bear-like, even though they're using a demigryph body model. Why so furious as additional lords and heroes? This adds, as it says, a bunch of hordes and heroes. I've actually turned it off. I think I was having compatibility issues with it, and I don't think it's been updated. This one I got specifically because it added Conrad von Karstein as a lord for the vampire counts, which is a character which I really like, but he's not actually present in the game at the moment, I don't think. Or, no, not in the base game, and not in any of the other mods I have. It also adds a few other heroes. It adds the heroine from a series of books, Genevieve, who is a vampire, but allied with the Empire, as a hero which the Empire starts off with. There's also new landmarks of the old world, which... I don't know whether that's done. That doesn't look like it's updated, but I'll have to check that. What this did was it added a bunch of unique buildings around the map for different settlements. Just as, like, you know, more landmarks. Say, oh, this city had this structure in it mentioned in the lore, so we have a building now based on that. Just to make settlements more interesting in individual. It also helps if you're playing as some of the minor factions, then you have unique buildings which might give them a buff in terms of their income, maybe more corruption or uncorrupted increase or something like that. It's also just little things to discover. I think it added one for the moot. It added like moot lands, and you could get some extra growth because you've got great fields in the moot. I can't remember all the other ones, but yeah, it was just that, just for some extra flavor around the world. So yeah, that's all the mods which I play with. I hope that turned out alright. I'll post this before... I'll just post this on my YouTube channel for people if they wish to know which mods I play with. I don't play with any major balance changing mods. Because for myself, personally, I find the base game is perfectly fine, and I don't play the game to have a massive challenge. I like a challenge. I only play on normal, however, because I don't like the enemy... I don't like the AI having... you know, bonuses over me. More than they do in normal, so... I mostly play to have, as you can kind of see from this, sort of a visual appearance. And, expanding the rosters just to include units which aren't included in the base game, which were a thing on the tabletop. Even if they're useless, like the, Orcs and Goblins packs. They had the Snotlings, which are pathetic, useless, and why would you ever use them? But it adds them because if I use them, I can laugh at them because they're so useless. Anyway, that will do that for that. So, I hope this is useful to people if they're interested.